everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Sexy Business Podcast, episode 99, a big one before we hit three digits. But as always, I am Lewd Neko, and joining me is Spooky Dangerous.
99.
And today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different episode since we are coming up on the big 100 episode of the Sexy Business Podcast. We wanted to dedicate today's episode to sort of talking a little bit about our journey with this podcast so far, some of the highlights and things that maybe surprised us that we really got to enjoy, and also a little bit of like a preview of things that we'd like to do in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked a little bit in the pre-show about some of the stuff that we kind of wanted to cover, and one of the big sentiments, I think with every podcast that kind of makes it this long, is wow, we did it. Because it is kind of tough to commit to record once a week, every week, for 100 weeks. So that's almost 2 years. We've never missed a week. There was 1 week in December, not last year, the year before, where the episode came out 2 days late. And there's 2 different weeks where the episode came out a week later because we were banned. So I don't count that. The episode was recorded and it existed already. But look, other than that, we've had no trouble recording episodes. And it's not like some of the podcasts that I like where they have a bigger cast of hosts where they're like, oh no, blank is not here this week, so it's going to be a bit quieter, or we're going to have to, find a guest to replace them. We've not had a solo Spooky episode, and we've not had a solo Neko episode, which is also like kind of crazy. We've both managed to be here and like commit to every single episode for 100 episodes, which is kind of insane.
Yeah, it reminds me the same way like I feel about streaming, where like when I started streaming back in like 2020, I very much thought it was just going to be kind of like a pandemic hobby that I was going to basically dump as soon as I, could go outside again. And then I was like, oh no, I actually really enjoy this. And I to this day, like I can't imagine like, retiring or graduating because it feels like, putting this like final, gravestone basically on like ever talking to the adult community again. And so, even if like someday I end up like giving up streaming altogether, I feel like something like a podcast or even just like existing still in like the online spaces, it kind of gives me a way of still being involved with the lewd community, even though I'm not really involved much with like the lewdtuber community. Like I don't post on social media that often, and I don't really have time to like talk to all of these people and do big collab streams anymore. But we can do sort of various forms of collabs through like the interviews and stuff like that, and so that's been really nice.
I think it's not uncommon. I see a lot of like YouTubers and like Twitch streamer type people kind of retire into a podcast, but that's the new channel that just has a weekly upload instead of grinding clips and dailies and streams all week and stuff like that. So I think it's not a crazy career path in this side of things, at least, to go, you know what, streaming is a bit too much, a bit too exhausting, and then just kind of still committing to the YouTube channel. Whereas from my end, it's not really that much extra than what I've got going on. I have a lot less time to play stuff than you do, but a lot of times I can watch your stream of you playing the game to then record and talk about it, which does help a lot. Because it's easier for me to have something on the second monitor and doing stuff. Like I watched all through like the Me side, for example. I've watched friends and stuff play Me side as well. I just haven't had a chance to open it up and run through it myself. I didn't get that far in. And so it's kind of, especially for a spooky game, it's a lot easier to watch and close my eyes or have the recording be very, very small on my screen so I don't get scared because I'm a soft boy. But I think kind of our format works in how we are different, you and I as the hosts. Bring different things to the show, and then kind of how it works together. And you have different luck with pulling guests than I have different luck with pulling guests and stuff like that. But for me, the odds of me leaving the show is like relatively low. I mean, it's on my YouTube channel, and the whole point of it was to help give extra content onto the Patreon to help keep people engaged with the brand and feel like they're being heard and, kind of seeing us existing and stuff like that. And I think those things aren't going to stop being important to me, at least. And I don't mind doing the YouTube stuff. My main channel has been on 1,000 subscribers since November, and I've pulled away from the main channel. I in the last 28 days have uploaded one video, and so I think that's going to go to like more monthly ones where I'm going to be focusing more on the THM channel. Because kind of once you get monetized, either you like double down and grind, or you kind of realize that it's not going to make any real money until you get much bigger. And because like for comparison, shorts get you like 15 cents per 1,000 views or some shit like that. And you're like, cool, my greatest YouTube short has earned me $1. You're like, all right, great. You know, and it's like, how many millions of them do I have to do before I can pay rent each month?
Yeah, and you know, it's like it's the same thing with YouTubing where whenever people come into this space, I'm like, if you're expecting to make really easy money, that is not the case. I would not recommend
Yeah.
ever going into streaming if your goal is to make lots of money. Because the people who do that are very like few and far between. For
Top
every like
1%.
0.1%, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. For
yeah.
every like 0.1% on OnlyFans who can not just make enough money to live but can own an extra house, most people are earning like enough to buy gas or like help
Well,
with
the bottom
groceries.
80% OnlyFans creators earn less than minimum wage.
Yeah. So you do have to have like some form of passion for the thing you're doing, whether that's camming or like in my case, like lewd games like are just my passion. God gave me the worst special interest because for some reason I can't info dump to people about this.
Nah, you still
So
can. You still can. You find a way.
No, I think that's like what the podcast has been. What's been nice about it is, most of our episodes, I think aside from like interviews, usually only get like around like 100 something views,
Yeah.
unless they're particularly spicy. And I think a lot of people would be like really discouraged by that and be like, after 20 episodes, I'm dumping this. We're not getting views. But I think from the beginning, we both expected that. I mean, NSFW content on YouTube is never going to really thrive. Even for the handful of people who are able to make it thrive, they have to deal with like so much bullshit with rules and regulations and stuff like that. And so, I mean, really, when this got like pitched to me of like, hey, do you want to co-host this? I was just like, oh yeah, I love yapping. This would be so fun to be able to just yap with a purpose. And I like how it kind of forces us to talk about different topics that maybe we haven't thought super in depth about. Like this is gonna be a random one, but like even like the giantess or like macro micro episode, like
Mm.
sure that's been a fetish that I've had and like I've seen content for, but like it was fun to actually get to talk about it on like a kind of a deeper dive into it of like why do people like this and what games do exist and what games should exist. And so I really like being able to go down those little like rabbit holes when we explore like a particular game or particular fetish or even when we talk to our interviewees, being able to sort of dive into like what brought you to this and what were your inspirations, and we get some really cool insights about all of these games that we already love.
Yeah, the NCR episode was kind of the same for me because it's like there's lots of different angles and ways that you can approach this interest around this core relationship dynamic, and especially because it's so divisive, right? So it's kind of interesting to dive into topics like that. But the episodes that we do about a specific niche perform the worst of all of our content categorically. That one is the worst type. But what's really interesting is with the NTR episode, that's really the only time that I've had people DMing me directly saying like, "Hey, actually, I'm so happy you did this episode. I liked it so much. It was really cool hearing my thing be talked about like that." And so it's weird because like a lot of the other types of episodes we haven't had that same kind of fan engagement, but it doesn't hit big number of views. Like it wasn't like, oh my god, 1 billion views, the video went crazy. But that's kind of what making games is like. I'm working on a big project at the moment. I've got a whole new company on the side. I've got a co-lead. I've got a whole bunch of team working with me on that. And over there, I'm the only person that's done any of this kind of stuff before. I'm the only person that's made games, made content. And my co-lead is a writer, so she's written books, but hasn't had that same kind of engagement with the product. And like book reviews are really, really different from Steam reviews, can I say? And so to kind of explain what that challenge and what that sentiment is like is that this is your first project. Maybe 5 people are going to think this is the greatest thing they've ever played, and pretty much everyone else is going to hate you and think you've done a shit job. And the whole point is that you're making it for those 5 people. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what the heart of this podcast is that we understand that there's a small percentage, across all the different people that interact with the brand that are interested in this kind of content where we can just have these really open and honest conversations about these kinds of topics that are kind of sometimes taboo, sometimes awkward, sometimes weird. Like, just wait till we do the piss kink episode, and then we get to have those 5 people that are like, wow, that was sick. I'm so happy that I was able to hear your pitch or how you're feeling about this or your ideas about these things for the future. And then most other people are like, I don't care. And eventually, as we get better at this, and maybe we'll look back in a minute and talk about some of the growth of the actual technical aspects of the show, but as time has gone on and we've done more and more episodes, I think we've gotten better at a lot of that kind of stuff. And maybe those 5 people will turn into 7 people, will turn into 10 people. And then as that dedicated audience of people grows, then that's the real success of the backbone of it. But it's still that small group of people that we're making a thing for. We're not expecting a million views. We're not expecting to monetize this channel and become millionaires overnight. However, if you would click the subscribe button, that would help us get monetized for sure. We're about halfway there. Metrics I fully wasn't expecting for us to ever hit. Like, we've actually had pretty good growth on the analytics, which has been really impressive. And like every now and again, we'll have an episode that gets kind of knocked out of the park. Like the Sucker and Brewery episode is like really popping off. And we got a bunch of subscribers that came in from that. And so if we want to grow the show, then we have guests. If we want to keep the people that watch the show happy, then we make like niche episodes or parasocial episodes, like funny little side things. You know what I mean? It's kind of interesting looking at it from a business mindset, because the show to be good has to be fun. For the show to have people to be having the fun, it needs to be more businessy, less fun. So it's a weird balance.
You talk about business on this podcast?
I know. Very unsexy topic.
And I mean, also like very selfishly, like you're the one who deals with all the analytics and the numbers. I'm just like blissfully unaware, aside from what you tell me, and I don't have to worry about all that stuff. And so I really love the interviews because it's been so cool to get to like talk to people who make the things I like. Like I'm such a nerd about that, where like I don't really care about like celebrities. Like I've never been like one of those fangirls that's like really obsessed with like a particular celebrity, or like even like really big voice actors. Like I will not wait in some bitch's line for 6 hours so I can talk to them for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I will never do that. There's no one I love that much. But I think the nice thing about like these sort of like, I wouldn't even say micro celebrities, it's just like Z-list, like, people who are really only popular within a very specific niche community, is it's really cool that you do have like a much more accessible way to like potentially talk to them. I mean, like most of these people, nobody's ever shown interest in them as a person, like probably in their whole career. Like they were always just the person who makes the thing I like and not the person.
Yeah.
And so I do think it's kind of nice that we get to bring light to the fact that like, yeah, games don't just magically appear on the internet. Especially in a lot of these cases where these are games that are being offered for free, is, adult gaming audiences can be particularly entitled in a way where they're just like, I want more free content quickly, slave. And, by being able to like talk to these people and talk about their process, we've gotten to learn a lot about like, all of the work that goes into, even for like a very basic visual novel, like writing is hard, and it takes a lot to plan out the plots and the choices you're going to include, and then you have to talk about like finding artists and finding the right character designs and all of that is things that take money and things that take time, and also things that take a creative vision, which as we've seen with the couple of AI slop rage videos we've done, you can see the lack of a creative vision in those. They are just generic. They're the most generic things you could ever imagine. Like AI could never create Foodadom World. AI could not create Suck and Brewery. Could it create a Hypno game? Could it create a Foodadom game? Sure, but it's never going to create something that has like a true vision and goal and progression in the way that games like those do.
Yeah, I mean the core of a lot of this kind of stuff is person goes, I wish this thing existed. I feel like our previous episode with the NTR dev, how it was like, I saw that there was just such a lack of NTR things in these different categories. And so it's like, okay, I'm just going to try and hit all of these different types of things so that at least something exists there, right? So it's like, dev's like, I want to create this thing because I think it's hot. and my burning desire for it to exist is the thing that motivates it to be created. And then it's going to connect with someone else who is like, oh shit, yeah, that's hard, that's my thing, or whatever. Um, Shout out Pitslip on this one, who I turned notifications on, and it's done psychic damage to my life every single day because I get a notification about feet pics and armpit pics just all the fucking time. But it's like, damn, I can recognize, how that's really good art or that's really good quality or whatever, and I understand the passion and how much excitement is behind it and all those kind of things. And I would love to see them make a game where they get to spotlight these kinds of things, because I think in the same way it's not as well represented on places like Steam. Whereas an AI slop game doesn't have that yearning, that burning desire to have this thing exist. It's just I want money and I am too lazy to put effort into getting it. And it just shows at every step of the way, and it's really disappointing. And it's like, I think customers are going to get better and better at understanding when it's like, oh yes, you were just trying to take my money, I'm not actually getting anything real in return. And they're going to become more savvy about it and get better at it. And maybe we should do a bigger dive into the Steam AI policy, which is laxed a lot. I watched a video on YouTube the other day, which is like not like a Steam curator, but she's like an indie game reviewer type person, and she released a video which is, this is January 1st to January 7th, and looked at every single game that was released on Steam, and so many of them were just AI slop. Like, we just came out of an era of the Unreal Engine asset flip, and at least that had a little bit more soul. That was like, you could tell a game dev who's kind of learning, and they go, I'm kind of finished this project, I'll put it up for sale, if I make a couple of bucks, that's great. If not, whatever, I'm working on this new thing now, which is going to be better from all these lessons I've learned. And they learn things about the publishing process. And AI Slop doesn't do that. And in this video, the YouTube was kind of pointing out that it was like, most of the adult content uploaded in that 1 week period was AI Slop. Including one of them, which was a femdom game, which was just like 6 episodes or something. It was like games 1 through 6 of the series, all uploaded on the same day. And it's like, why is that a good idea? Why did you think this was going to succeed? Are you really trying to build a franchise? Are you really trying to build a brand and monetize an audience, kind of a thing? And it just feels so disingenuous the whole time. And it was such a high percentage of AI slop games that were in that adult category, like 90% or something. I think only 2 of them were not AI generated, which is insane. And I imagine most weeks since then has been the same. So it's harder to compete with the flood. And there's always been lots of shovelware on Steam, but their content policy becoming so lax is making it harder to compete with that kind of stuff. So I think us getting a chance to spotlight those creators and show off those burning passions feels really rewarding, and feels kind of important as a conversation to have,
Yeah, and I mean, I think like moving forward, I do think it would be good to like actually do like a deeper dive that isn't just us being angry, because I mean, it's really easy to sort of convince people that this is bad from like an artistic perspective, but it's like also, like you said, it's like it's also bad for consumers and it's bad for these markets. I do think people are gonna wise up to it. It kind of reminds me of like how recently like younger, teenagers and 20 somethings have been wising up to like fast fashion. Like people are realizing this shit sucks. It's bad for the environment. It is going to last like 1 or 2 washes before it starts falling apart. And if you had just invested a couple extra bucks into a nicer top or whatever, you wouldn't be having this issue. Like, so like been seeing people kind of wising up to that. And we're seeing a lot of those like big, stores that have a lot of fast fashion starting to fold. And, fingers crossed, I hope a similar thing happens where, I think as people start to be able to recognize the signs of AI and they start to, maybe question, is an AI art generated game worth $10, $15? Probably not. It's barely worth a couple of dollars. Because a lot of these cases, I think, especially with something like, like Femboy Fuda House, which we've talked about like 5,000 times about how much we hate it, is it really is just a lot of people who are not in this niche. they don't know what an adult game is. They don't know what eroge is. They don't know that there are all these like hundreds of dozens of, great creators on Patreon and Itch and Steam and all these other places. And so they see funny meme game, and it has looks like it has decent art. And when they buy it, they can tell their friends, "I bought it as a joke." And I think that's how those kinds of games end up being really popular. Unfortunately, is that a lot of people who sort of are just buying it for the bit, or maybe because they feel guilty about enjoying this kind of thing, so they're only going to buy sort of the most like surface level interpretation of it, rather than going for something that has a little bit more nuance or actually has some artistic value in some way.
Yeah, I'm really, as we've said before, mad about this game in particular, but it just really feels like
1
Steam
hour
rolled out the
rant,
red
man.
carpet for them, right? Like, they got to do their own Adult Game Awards where they awarded themselves a whole bunch of wins in a whole bunch of categories because their game was in most categories, and every other game that was in every other category was an AI slop game, and they didn't invite anyone else to really come and participate. And just fucking crazy shit like that, where it's like, come on. Steam as a platform's entire purpose is to be a marketplace, and a marketplace only exchanges money if there is trust between the consumer and the goods creator. And having things like this, which is just so. People complain about the Game Awards in the same way, where they're like, this was 90% trailers, and then we like blasted through some awards for things. And it's like, yes, because incredibly transparently, the trailer is the thing that makes all the money. The awards mean nothing, and the awards are really only given to people that bought it, and then the award means nothing except that they get to have a sticker on their Game of the Year box, or they get to have a sticker on the Steam page that says we were best in this category or whatever. And it's all just marketing. It's not actually recognition of talent or anything like that. And it's I mean, the Game Awards is more of a worse one, but like having you as the host come and award yourself a bunch of shit, it's just not a good look. And then you get to post the game award. I won the Adult Game Awards in this category thing on your Steam page, and then people don't know that you were the host of it that ran it. You were the person that chose who won or whatever. And it's incredibly disingenuous. And so it just kind of, every time we spend more than 3 minutes thinking about any of these AI devs, it just feels like they are thieves in like every sense of the word. And it's really disappointing. And it really takes away from some of these incredibly talented individuals that we get to talk to. I like Radlord, who was a big favorite of mine, and in the same way, like Radlord has always been really angry about a lot of the other AI stuff. And I think if we had him back on the show, we could very easily do a 1 hour rant about Haunted by a Fanboy or whatever, and insert AI slop game here. And I don't know how much us ranting about the same thing and complaining about the same thing really solves anything, except for like maybe consumers start to understand over time some of that stuff. But I would much rather like to solve problems with the positivity of the go, no, actually, here is a really good thing. Here is a good thing that you can enjoy. You can happily ignore this awful thing, but here is a solution. Here's a substitution. Here is a really cool dev that we've met and we hang out. And we love doing this kind of networking stuff because some of the people that we meet and spend time with have been really cool, and we've continued working with them for a long time since then. For example, I think it's Cursed Atelier, the people that make Voidbound. We're talking to them like every week. That group chat has not fallen off my top 15 on Discord, because we're always like, hey, look, I've got a thing coming up. Do you want to trade retweets and stuff like that? We're always talking about how we can be working with marketing. And if you've been following closely, we actually opened a Sexy Business Podcast itch.io page, where the itch.io page, I can push devlog updates and announce new episodes. So if you are watching this on that page, shout out. But it also means that I can like kind of write some notes and stuff about the episode, a little bit longer than a tweet could hold. I can also go, hey, also, if you like this episode, here is the exact link of the other old one that we did. For example, we did Degrees of Ludity was the last episode, and it's like a text-based game, right? And then I get to go, hey, look, check out this new episode. We're talking about a text-based game, and also we referenced this other episode where we previously talked about text-based games. You can check that one out as well, and it gives a bit more freedom with that. But also because we have a lot of followers on the itch.io page, we're like kind of sending it directly to that person. We're not interacting with the social media algorithm and praying that it shows up on your dash, praying that it shows up in your YouTube feed that you're scrolling through and you see our lovely faces. It's just, directly a notification. Oh, a game that I like has an update. No, wait. Here is a new podcast episode. And on that page, we are able to embed direct sales links to a lot of the people that we've worked with and show off their products directly, which I think adds a lot of value. And I really like being able to do stuff like that, where it's kind of showing off the cool things that exist and helping them out and sharing our fans with their fans and back and forth. And we do a lot of Patreon recommendation trading and stuff like that, and putting from our itch demo pages, which are for free because of the the changes to itch's policies and delisting and stuff. We've got embeds to other people's games and stuff where we've traded, and they've got our embed on their thing. And what's really interesting is that embed is 80% of all of our combined traffic for THM. So because I'm friends with Radlord and he put a link on his fucking itch page that says check out Shackles of Elswyn, that's the majority of the traffic to our itch.io page, because everything is delisted, nothing is delivered. But people that saw that thing and go, oh, I like this niche. Oh, you have a similar game recommended to me. You trust this person. You're vouching for them. And that content is kind of in my wheelhouse. They're much more likely and interested to go and check that out. And that's why, and we've been saying this for ages, for millions of years, that us working together, especially in this industry where everyone is so hostile towards us, is so important, and it reaps so much benefits for all of us. The more we kind of work together, the more we kind of help each other out. And so I guess that's maybe my favorite part of the show in its entirety, is I get to meet these cool people. We get to hang out, we get to realize that we actually do have kind of a lot in common, and kind of shoot the shit for 30 minutes and get to kind of spotlight their product. And then the customer is winning all around because they get to hear a voice that they maybe trust and like about it. They get to hear Neko gush about Suck on Brewery for 6 years before we finally have the dev on and come and talk about how cool that game is. And it's really sick. I really appreciate that about it.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that kind of is a good segue into talking about like what we want to do over the next year or 100 episodes. Hopefully, I mean, if we make it to 200, that's gonna be goated. We're popping champagne.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
But I definitely like keeping it up with the interviews. I think I have gotten ballsier in like the last year as far as like asking for interviews. I used to kind of like only ask people if I was like, oh, if I've played either like a really significant amount of their game and I can point to that and be like, hey, streamed your stuff. Or if like we had similar follower counts, I would like message them.
Yeah.
But these days, I'm not joking. Like I've been sending out a lot of messages, and I just went on Steam. I saw like a new game that was out. I was like, cool. Looked for the dev page, found like one of the artists, DM'd them, and like, even though like most of those probably don't get responses, a lot of these cases, these are people who don't use their accounts too much or
You
who
gotta
aren't
shoot
going
your
to be
shot.
comfortable. Yeah, who knows? We could get some potentially very big pulls, especially because, again, a lot of times we're reaching out to people who have never even considered the fact that someone might ask them for an interview. Like, I think that's usually the
Yeah.
reaction is like, oh, hell yeah. Like, what? I can talk about my game?
Or a lot of creatives think about getting interviewed as like a really cool accolade to have. Like that was what the dev from Suck and Brewery said in the post show. He was like, actually, this is one of my goals, to be able to come and be interviewed and talk about some of the stuff that I make, because it's a really cool feeling to like people actually care about what I have to say and stuff like that. And I've been shooting my shot a lot as well. The biggest problem I encounter is that people don't have their DMs open, and I don't want to just like comment, reply to something and be like, at username, hello, please come on my podcast, because that feels cringe as fuck. But sometimes when you have sent out the message, and look, we had this funny situation with D-San recently, who is a comic artist, where I had DM'd them and asked them about some shit, and it was left unread. They'd not checked it, and look, no surprise, the Twitter DMs is eroded at best. And then someone posted something on the feed, and because I see D-San in my notifications all the time because they follow the stuff that we post, they replied to it as like maybe potentially being a guest or collaborating on something. And I replied with search my name in your fucking DMs. I swear to God. Cause like I've been trying to work with them for stuff for a long time now. And it's kind of sick to be like, wow, this comic artist that I've followed for a while, I get to interact with and I get to maybe ask on the show and come and hang out. But yeah, like for the future, because interviews are really hard to organize, Neko and I are in opposing time zones, and a lot of the people that we find are in the middle somewhere, and so finding an overlapping time is really hard, and scheduling is really
who
difficult.
Has to wake up at 3 a.m.?
Pretty much, yeah. For the Bashocha Mum episode, I woke up at 4 a.m. And we've had some other people that are like, sometimes it's like me in the middle of the day, and then you and the other person, it's like really late at night, like midnight kind of thing. And it's really hard, just to put it shortly. But because of that, we're always trying to book guests and stuff like that, and that means that because the difficulty and all this kind of stuff is going to be spaced between when they happen naturally, so it's not like we're going to get all of them in a row or whatever. Like, we're not trying to fill every episode with just guests. We're trying to do stuff. We're playing games and this kind of stuff, and then we're able to get guests when they kind of happen. That said, I've got a few in the pipeline that I'm really excited about and potentially coming up soon. I'm not going to name names, but there's another podcast that works with the same content that we've been in touch with the hosts, and they're like, yeah, it would be really cool if we did like kind of a guest swap where they come on here and we go on there and we talk about different topics and stuff like that, which would be kind of sick. That means that we get to guest star on something, so that will be new and special and different. And then there's a few artists. I've mostly been talking to artists. I haven't really been talking to game devs as much because I see them a lot less on my feed. My feed is just all free-run feet cosplay, and it makes it really hard to find guests for the podcast. But that said, I would love to have more OnlyFans girlies on the show. I would love to have more cosplayer-type content people, more illustrators. I'd love to have more voice actors. I feel like we haven't done enough voice actors. And a lot more people that are just doing different things that we haven't quite covered yet in the adult spaces. And I'm sure there's a lot of them. I'm sure there's like video editors or animators, and like maybe there's some people from the THM team that people want to see, like Sarissa, who's been doing animations and stuff for our show. Maybe people are interested in coming and seeing, you know, their process or talking about that kind of stuff or whatever. Like if you know someone, if you're a big adult game frog, or you really like illustrations, or you're really into free-run feet cosplays, reach out to your favorite person and tell them, hey, I would love to see you as a guest on the show. Get in touch, because if they get in touch with us, we're going to say yes. It's
Absolutely.
we want to do that. We want to have people come on and talk about stuff. That's kind of the point. Maybe we should just get like a competition for the world's biggest gooner and have them come on and give like a first-person customer perspective interview. But look, we're trying stuff. We're excited to get people onto the show.
Who has gooned the most to THM games?
Yeah, that's it.
Must send proof.
Exactly. And yeah, so we're trying our best to make things exciting for the future. And now we did kind of open this episode with some stuff that we've dropped the lead a little bit. I did mention kind of in the middle that I do want to talk a little bit about how we've grown technically over the time, and like some of this is just kind of the episode layout and stuff like that. Like we started off using a lot of stock art backgrounds for things because we weren't really sure what we were going to do, and as we were focusing on games directly a little bit more, we started to pull art assets from those games, which kind of makes it fit a bit better with what we're doing. This episode in particular, we've picked out like a cute animated cozy background thing, which kind of works a little bit. Some other ones we've done some, like I filmed a looping GIF from Orc Massage so that we can have literally the video game playing loop in the background. So we are working on these kind of technical things and trying to make them get better. A guy DM'd me and he said, hey, can I buy you a new microphone? And it's like, yeah, look, I'm working on it. The one I have is not spectacular, but it's on the list. I have to replace every fan in my PC because in Australia we haven't had a temperature below 100 Fahrenheit. I'll clarify because no one local listens to the show for sure. And so it's been a bit crazy recently and I need to get my stuff fixed. But we are you know, as the show grows, as we do get more subscribers and stuff like that, it proves to us that we can invest in these things and make sure that we're delivering a higher quality product as things get better. When it's just starting out and you're like, I don't know if people are going to care or how long are we going to do this, it's hard to go, yes, I'm going to buy a real good microphone and a clamp and a rig and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And maybe one day we'll finally see a real spooky VTuber. We did get the 3D model commissioned and put together. I have yet to figure out if my computer can handle running that at the same time while I'm recording the show. So that's like a possibility of a thing, but it's like maybe
Oh my
further in the
gosh,
pipeline.
wait. Because like I know I've literally been saying this for the past 6 years of my life is I'm gonna get a PC this year. But like this is the year I kind of have to because my laptop is she's gonna die soon. What if
Ooh,
we could have like a
RIP.
podcast live from VR chat?
Hell yeah, that'd be cool. There's a
I'm
podcast
gonna
that
make
I
myself
like
6 feet tall.
called GLHF, and they just play a video game and film the two characters talking to each other as if it's the podcast hosts. So we could do stuff like that. But yeah, that'd be sick. We can kind of, you know, work on upgrading some stuff. And we joked that if I was ever in the correct hemisphere, that we might do a live episode and a face reveal and a feet reveal and all that kind of shit. And you know, it may be in episode 400 or whatever when we're still doing it. We're millionaires because we have 1,000 billion subscribers. That would be a cool thing to happen. But it's so hard to know. And basically, we're working and grinding through it, and only through, you know, the support of the viewers can that really be a thing that happens. But the other thing that I opened up and we haven't really touched on yet is episode 100. So we were kind of trying to figure out exactly what we wanted to do for episode 100 because it's kind of a big milestone. Would it be cool to have a big guest come on? It's like I would love to have Bishojo Mum come back for an episode and talk about what's happened in the last 70 weeks. Or did we try and find like another kind of a big guest or what, that kind of stuff? What we actually ended up settling on was doing kind of a funny retrospective-ish episode where we actually go back and look at all of the other 99 episodes and tier list them, which I think is going to be really funny. Both in like we have to kind of cringe at past self stuff, because don't forget I had a major facelift like 30 episodes in or something. A lot of our technical skill had like greatly changed after that kind of first season kind of era. And then like some of our episodes have really hit very, very good. And like when we did the awards recently, we were talking about like what some of our favorite episodes were, or like why that was really a favorite episode. We kind of get to dig deep into each of the different parts of the back catalog, but also we can go like, you know what, we only really briefly talked about werewolves and I would love to come back and do that again, or find media adjacent to this so we can explore it a bit more or whatever. And looking back, we can kind of see stuff that maybe wasn't successful but we wish it had more of a chance to shine, or we can spotlight episodes that really were good, and if you're a newer listener, it's worth going back and checking out. So I think that'll be a lot of good fun. So make sure that you stick around for next week to come and check that one out and come and celebrate 100 with us.
All right. So is that all the time you have, Spooky?
Pretty much. We went over.
Okay.
Look, my gift to you, loyal viewer, is this extra
We
7
left.
minutes of episode.
Oh, damn. Um, in that case, you listened to us for a whole extra 7 minutes than normal. That probably deserves a subscribe and a like, and you can leave us a comment down below. Especially for those of you who have maybe stuck around for a while, or if you're also a recent viewer, you know, what have been some of your favorite episodes, or what has it been like watching this podcast grow and change? What have you noticed? I think it's always interesting to get kind of the viewer's perspective of things, because all me and Spooky do is talk back and forth about what it feels like to make the podcast and come up with ideas and coordinate interviews and things like that. And as always, you know, we have hopefully another year, hopefully another 100 episodes of podcast to go. And so we do appreciate recommendations. Like we said, if you know a creator who you think would be really great on the show, tell us about them and we'll probably try to reach out. Or, you know, you can always pitch us to them if you happen to know any creators or things like that. And it doesn't just have to be NSFW game dev. It could be your NSFW artist. It could be an OnlyFans model, adult voice acting. We're really interested in getting more of those kinds of folks. So it isn't just us talking to game devs all the time. And we do also appreciate recommendations of games. So we've talked about a lot of games. What are some other ones that you think have been really interesting or very unique, or maybe specific creators that we haven't talked about before? Those are all great. But otherwise, this was episode 99. Next one is probably going to be a big one. It's probably going to be a long one. We're probably going to go way over 30 minutes, I feel like.
Yeah, it might
But
be
it's going
two
to be a lot of
hours.
fun. So stay tuned, and we will see you next time on the Sexy Business Podcast. Bye,
Bye bye.
everyone.